Hello and welcome to my labor and delivery story. I'll just jump right into it because I hate long intros and videos. But to preface this whole thing, my pregnancy was very rough. I have a lot of health issues, so going into labor, we were always questioning, is something going to go wrong and am I going to need a C-section because of my heart rate and other health issues. So I was actually in prodromal labor with Landon for like 5 days. If you don't know what that means, you're essentially in like pre-labor, but you're not progressing and it's very inconsistent. So I was about 37 weeks and 2 days in prodromal labor. I thought that I was in actual labor. I was in a lot of pain. I was having consistent contractions. So I went to the hospital, and before they admit you, you have to go through triage and everything. So I was in triage and I was at a 2 there, but a few days prior at my 37-week appointment, I was at about 1.5 centimeters and 80% effaced. So I was at a 2 and about 90% effaced. So I had progressed a little bit, but not much, and my contractions were very inconsistent. So they were going to send me home. I had a midwife come in and check me, and I did not like her. She was low-key like a biatch. She checked me and she was like, you're not ready. You're only 37 weeks and 2 days. I'm not going to induce you. Like, your baby's very small, which at my 37-week appointment, my midwife had said that she was guesstimating my baby was around 6 pounds. So I had brought that up to her. I was like, well, my midwife actually told me that he's around 6 pounds. And she like felt around my belly and she was like, yeah, that baby is not 6 pounds. That's like maybe a 5-pound baby. And I'm like a 5 foot. So like I'm a small human in general. So yeah, I wasn't happy. I went home. So in the time span that I was at home, I was doing everything to make this prodromal labor progress into actual labor. Like, I was curb walking, I was bouncing on my ball, I was pumping like no other. I was willing to do anything to get this baby out of me. It was on a Sunday. I was curb walking to Starbucks with my boyfriend, and later on that day, there was just like random leakage, and I never had an issue when it came to like peeing myself or anything during my pregnancy. So I was just leaking a little bit, and I was like, maybe it's discharge. And then I went to the bathroom. And I went pee, and then I went and sat down in my bed. And as I sat down, I felt this like fluid fill my underwear. And I was like, okay, I just peed. Like, this isn't pee. This is something else. And I started to feel like very light minor period cramps. Like, I wouldn't have even noticed if I wasn't paying attention to it. So I texted my doula and I was like, what should I do? Like, it's probably nothing. And she advised that I go in and get it checked. So I went in, triaged the whole thing again, and they did a little test. And yeah, it turns out that my water was leaking. So my water broke, which was awesome. That meant that I was having a baby. But also in my mind, I was like, oh shit, I'm having a baby. So at this point, it was like 9:30 at night, and my water guesstimated had started leaking at around noon. So since my water had been leaking for so long, my contractions were very small, spread apart. They recommended that I started Pitocin. I really did not want to do Pitocin, but for the sake of possible infection and all that stuff, I started Pitocin right away. At about midnight, and I tried to go to sleep, and then around 3:30 things actually started to hurt, so I didn't really get to sleep. At about 5 a.m. my doula showed up, and things were starting to get a little bit more consistent and intense. I was starting to not really be able to talk through my contractions. They were upping the Pitocin every 30 minutes. At about 9 a.m. the pain started to get a little bit more like unbearable, so I was like, okay, I'm ready to try the bathtub, like very hot water. And so I got in the bath expecting that to do something, and it did not help as much as I thought it would. Looking back on it, I wish I would have known that putting the hot water in specific spots during a contraction would help, but I did not do that. I only lasted in the bathtub for about probably 20 minutes, and then I got out, was ready to start nitrous oxide. So I started that. They couldn't get it to work for like 15 minutes, so I felt like I was dying. That worked well for about 2 contractions, but I had been up for like 36 hours at this point, and the high of the nitrous oxide made me lose control of my emotions. So I started sobbing because I was in so much pain. I was so tired. was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And the nurse checked me and I was at a 6, and she was like, hey, like if your plan is to get the epidural, you should do it now. So I said, all right, let's get the epidural. Nobody prepared me for getting the epidural. My experience with this was terrible. It took him like 25 minutes to actually get the epidural in place, which it normally doesn't take that long, and I was still on the Pitocin. My contractions were back to back to back with no break. It's pretty much constantly intense. I was just a mess at this point. Like, I was sobbing so hard. I had my eyes closed, and my boyfriend was like wiping snot from my face. And the anesthesiologist hit the same side twice when he was placing my epidural, so he messed up. So he had to go back and hit the other side. Otherwise, it only would have worked on half my body. So he finally got it, and I was feeling fantastic. I was gonna take a nap. They were like, we'll check you in about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Go ahead, take a nap, rest, whatever. And I had laid down. I put the peanut ball in between my legs to, help things because I was progressing very slow. They also broke the rest of my water because it was only leaking and it had never actually fully broken. So I was going to take a nap, and about 35-40 minutes later, the nurse comes in and she was like, are you feeling a lot of pressure? And I was like, I am 9 months pregnant. I've been feeling a lot of pressure for months. So she's like, well, your baby is having heart decels with every contraction. So she asked if she could check me again, and of course I said yes. And I was at 10 centimeters, fully effaced, ready to go. It was time to push. And I was like, sick. Didn't get to sleep. I've been up forever. This was at about like 11:30. So a few minutes later, I started pushing. I was actually very fortunate to be very mobile with my epidural. Obviously, like, I couldn't feel anything, like I wasn't really in a lot of pain, but I could like move my legs. I couldn't walk, but I could do other things than just lay on my back. And I really didn't want to push on my back until I had to. There's a lot of studies that have been done where pushing on your back is actually one of the worst positions you can push in. So I started pushing like on my knees over the bed, and pushing on my side was definitely like the most efficient way for me. So I pushed in a whole bunch of different positions before I actually pushed on my back. So I pushed for a total of 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I did puke when I started pushing. I guess the epidural can make you like very nauseous, and I had some chicken broth, and that came right out of me. So eventually, when the baby was there, I was crowning, they actually had the doctor come in, of course, and I had asked her to do everything she could, slow the process down as much as needed in order for me to not tear. So we got a lot of like really hot washcloths to help, the spreading of things so that I wasn't too quick, so that I didn't tear, or didn't tear that bad. And so it was pretty slow, and she allowed me to push whenever I felt the need to push. She was amazing, so I pushed whenever my body told me that I should push. His head came out, and then his body came out, and they put him right on me. Afterwards, everything went great. I didn't tear, minus like a couple small cuts. I didn't need any stitches or anything, which was great. So my entire labor actually went just about the best that it possibly could. He struggled with latching pretty much immediately. He was grunting when he came out, which is a sign of having trouble breathing. So his lungs were slightly immature and he was having trouble breathing, but he never needed to be put on any sort of oxygen. And then they checked his glucose levels, and his glucose levels were dangerously low, like to the point where he could have a seizure if this isn't fixed right now. So we actually had to do like some sugar syrup and like sugar water with him, and use donor milk right from the get-go to try and get those levels up. And then throughout our hospital stay, his levels would go up and down, and I was able to breastfeed, which was great. And yeah, we stayed an extra night just to monitor all of that. But yeah, I would say my labor and delivery went really well. I was very happy with the doctors and the nurses that I had. I didn't have to fire anybody. Those first couple days at home, you know, you have to be super careful, lay down, do nothing. And I actually had to take Landon to a couple of extra appointments because of his levels being low and all that fun stuff. So, and I had to do those by myself because his dad had to go back to work, and I actually ended up tearing my clit, which was very painful. And we didn't even know. I was trying to do Kegels, and every time I would do one, it hurt like really bad. And so then we came to find out that all like the walking and stuff that I did pretty much immediately postpartum, I ended up tearing myself. But I didn't need to get any stitches or anything, which I guess is a good thing. Yeah, so I didn't know that that was possible. So that concludes my labor and delivery birth story. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will link my Instagram and TikTok in the description of this video. Bye!